This year, the Democrats are holding their convention in Charlotte, North Carolina, which is a drag for lots of Democrats since Democrats tend to support union rights, and there is not a single union hotel in all of Charlotte. Who thought that one up? Republicans this year are holding their convention in Tampa, Florida, which is a drag for lots of Republicans because Tampa is the strip club capital of America, and Republicans in strip, well, actually, I don't know, maybe that's a plus for them. Tampa, I should note, is also the death metal capital of America. Tampa gave the world bands like Morbid Angel and Deicide and Obituary. So that's got to be a plus for some Republicans going to the convention, but probably not all of them. The last time around, though, in 2008, it ended up being really important where the Republicans chose to put their convention. The Republicans in 2008 put their convention in St. Paul, Minnesota, remember? And that ended up being really important because St. Paul is one of two twin cities. St. Paul and Minneapolis are two cities that butt right up against each other, separated only by the Mississippi River. And that was really handy in 2008 because while the official Republican convention was going on in St. Paul, Republicans that year also held a shadow convention at the same time in the other twin, in Minneapolis. And it was like a real convention, red, white, and blue, ticker tape, a capacity crowd of adoring fans for the politician they were all there to see. It even had the obligatory rock song from a rock star, in this case Tom Petty, who took legal action to try to stop conservative politicians from using his music. The Republican shadow convention in 2008, held across the river from the real deal, was, of course, a Ron Paul extravaganza. The Ron Paul Shadow Convention ended up being so big that they had to move it from its first venue into a bigger venue.
I understand there's another meeting in a nearby town going on. Let us be respectful. We have also noticed that those in the establishment aren't very anxious to welcome us in. What am I doing this for? What's the purpose of all this? And in many ways, it is to send a message.
The Ron Paul Shadow Convention across the river from the RNC in 2008 was a huge hullabaloo, a huge crowd. Everybody paid $17.76 to get in. They made a ton of noise. Ron Paul said, as you heard there, they were there to send a message. But ultimately, what was the message? I mean, it was kind of a lot of sound and fury signifying mostly nothing because they did not have anything to do. I mean, ultimately, the real Republican deal was across town with John McCain and Sarah Palin. And none of those 10,000 Ron Paul fans in Minneapolis had anything to work on, anything to get done there, no matter how excited they were. Well, this year, the Ron Paul campaign has not planned a shadow convention. They are doing a pre-convention rally ahead of the real Republican convention in Tampa. But that's it. And maybe there is a reason that the Ron Paul campaign has not planned a parallel, we don't care you're holding a convention nearby blowout. Maybe it's because this year at the Republican convention, at the real Republican convention, Ron Paul supporters might actually have something to do. Quite a lot of the Ron Paul folks who are going to this pre-convention rally in Tampa the day before the convention, quite a lot of them are going to be in Tampa anyway because they are delegates to the Republican National Convention. And depending on what happens this upcoming weekend, this coming Saturday, those delegates at the real convention who are Ron Paul supporters could really, really change what is supposed to happen at the Mitt Romney convention. If Ron Paul gets the most delegates at Nebraska's state Republican convention this weekend, that would make Nebraska the fifth state in which Ron Paul has accomplished that goal, getting the plurality of delegates. The Republican Party rules say that means Ron Paul would get to put his name forward at the convention. You know, in terms of whether or not he should be the nominee for president from the Republican Party. That would mean, among other things, that Ron Paul would be guaranteed a speaking slot of 15 minutes before the first round of balloting at the convention. That means Republicans don't just get to coronate Mitt Romney as the uncontested nominee. That means there are dueling nominations and a contested vote. And did I mention there are a whole bunch of Ron Paul supporting official delegates who are going to that convention? How do you think the prospect of that happening is going over with the Republican Party bigwigs and the Mitt Romney folks? If you guessed that they are now approaching freakout status and are going to rather extreme lengths to try to stop this increasingly likely outburst of inconvenient democracy in their midst, you would be right. We've got an exclusive on that next. It is from Mitt Romney's home court of Massachusetts, and it is a very, very weird story. That's next.